Let me clear up some details. For people think that I want to cure myopia. Absolutely can't. It's impossible. As soon as you put a kid in a minus lens, his vision is permanently lost. You're not going to get it back. So a little bit about me. Of course, I did this eyes on the page type reading, and that took my vision down. Negative refractive state for the fundamental eye. It's my fault. I should not have done that. And of course, I had doubts. I figured that's what happened and why it happened. You really can't help a child. The parents could get the kid's nose off the page, but that's a separate story. Now, what happened to me? In high school, way back when, we had this camera eye. So in physics, so you're expected to draw rays of light through a camera and show that an eye was out of focus unless the rays of light hit the retina directly, a camera. Emmetropization is medical term for it. Somehow the eye knows where zero is, and I got it 0 diopters, I'm normal. But the problem is not one eye in the world is normal because it's not exactly 0. That's the idealistic and totally isolated thinking in optometry. Unless your refractive state's exactly 0, you need glasses. Positive glasses or negative glasses. Very simple, actually, and totally wrong. So I went to an engineering school sometime in the Army, and I was obviously thinking about it, and I thought, what did nature design? What did Mother Nature design in all fundamental eyes? Now, I give Mother Nature credit for designing excellent control systems. It couldn't be any other way than that way, unless you're in optometry. So I don't want to argue, but the question is, how do all fundamental eyes behave when you're looking for their design? Either they're dynamic or they're not dynamic by your measurement of their refractive state with the standard instrument. So you're not measuring an error, you're measuring a refractive state. To convert a refractive state into an error, you have to impose emmetropization on the discussion, which immediately says it's an optometrist who's defending their practice. So I really don't argue about that. You either understand the design of the eye as the dynamic system, or you reject the whole idea. But that's, of course, a scientific curiosity, not medicine. So in writing this up, and I was a senior in college, writing it up, and I thought I was right. What's going on in optometry? I realized the public is impossible. There's nothing more arrogant and ignorant than the public. So you can't do anything with the public, nor do I expect anyone in medicine to do anything with the public. It's impossible for that reason, ignorance. Well, not intentional ignorance. So having written this up as a senior, I wondered what's really happening. And that was where the submariners and submarines, the completely normal eye will change its refractive state from plus to minus in principle, from going into submarines. And the following thought was, if you get rid of the submarine, your refractive state stays positive and you keep your 20/20. Broad-based conceptual. This is for all fundamental scientific eyes. It's nothing about what is actually going on today, because you can't do anything. So that got me to Ohio, and I had contact with Jacob Rafelson through a man in New York who had published this. I said, that's perfectly obvious. That's it. All fundamental eyes are dynamic control systems. That's it. That's fundamental principles is thinking the way all eyes must be because they're dynamic systems. And that got me to talk to Jacob Rafelson. And he was about, I think, 90 years old, to see what in the world was going on with respect. And of course, that is where I found out that prevention is impossible if you're an optometrist. Just out of the question. But the stuff he published was good. He was trying to do something, and what stopped it was the ignorance of the public. Don't ask me for a cure. There is none. And don't ask me to help you get out of it. That's up to you. So with that, when I left Rafelson, I said, we're killing our eyes by ignorance. And of course, this then went to my immediate relatives. There again, people are indifferent. They don't want it. They don't want to be bothered with it. They won't do it for the most part. And so the best I could do for them was, don't get a minus lens. But the corollary is you must pass the DMV requirement at home. This is to avoid being overprescribed by 2 or 3 doctors, which I think is typical. And so you have your Snellen, you must always pass the 20/40 line, which is what I'm doing now. This is so when you go for an exam, you're not overprescribed by an automatic 1, 2, or 3 doctors. Doesn't matter. Once you start wearing it, it's over for you. You're done, kaput. This puts all the responsibility on the intelligence and motivation of the engineer scientist. And that is where we're getting an argument. Because the experimental data I know from the primate eye is you apply a step input control theory to a control system, you expect a time constant response. Sorry for the mathematics, it's a control system. So either it's going to be a control system or it's going to be bad engineering, as far as I'm concerned. So all the experimental data I see from that perspective shows the eye is a control system until you use the word emmetropization, in which case, don't even bother talking, it's over. So that is how curiosity got me to talk to an optometrist who judged that prevention is absolutely essential before you start wearing a minus lens. His statement, and of course his book, called The First Minus Poison. This means when you're 20/40. I respect that. I must always pass the DMV, so I'm doing that now. Don't claim 20/20, might have it, but objectively, always pass the DMV. So that's what I'm doing now, and that's why have been wearing a plus for the last 13 years. I don't make a statement I recovered from anything. I make the statement it's personal self-defense, a desire never to wear a minus lens again, and never get progressive myopia, which you always get from that wearing the first minus lens. But the responsibility is yours to understand the eye's behavior from birth as a control system, as a dynamic system, not a bad camera, not emmetropization. In fact, no eye ever does that. It just imposes that on the data because it makes it look like a camera. Their desire to make it look like a camera, emmetropization, ends in any sort of rational discussion about basic science, engineering, objective testing, and it's a business. You're not going to really disturb anything if you're doing business. I guess then I have to be an abstract engineer who's not professional to have that interest to help my immediate relatives to get the nose off the page, and if down to 20/40, wear a plus veneer. This, of course, is rejected by the always famous Jake Steiner, who says, nah, you don't have to do that. It has nothing to do with it. You don't have to look at a Snellen. You don't have to learn anything. You don't have to be objective. You don't have to understand the eye as a dynamic system. So that's the first order of business. You can either agree with me that all eyes are dynamic systems starting at birth, or we disagree, in which case you prove that all eyes are bad cameras. at birth, emmetropization. So that is how my curiosity got me into questions about the dynamic behavior of all fundamental eyes starting at birth that does not involve optometrist. The best note of all is Rupa and Jeff Wong, who have their kids trained to keep their nose off the page. They measure their eyes. Their refractive state is always positive, and they have 20/20 and will for the next 10 years, probably 20 years. Add your own thoughts, but that's what motivated me to design the eye as a dynamic control system, not a bad camera. Thank you.